The chandelier light caught her just before she fell. 700 guests in black tie and couture watched Victoria Ashford Crane sway once, twice, and then crumple against the edge of a linen-draped table, sending a cascade of crystal champagne flutes shattering across the marble floor of the Waldorf Astoria's Grand Ballroom. The sound cut through the string quartet's rendition of Debussy like a gunshot, and for 3 terrible seconds, nobody moved. She was 32 years old, 7 months pregnant with twins, and wearing a midnight blue Valentino gown that her stylist had carefully altered to accommodate her swollen belly. The fabric pooled around her like dark water as she lay on the cold floor, one hand instinctively cradling her abdomen, the other reaching for something, someone who was not there. Her husband's chair at their reserved table sat empty, his place card untouched, his napkin still folded into its origami swan. 2 waiters reached her first, followed by a cardiologist who happened to be seated 3 tables away. Victoria's eyes fluttered as the doctor knelt beside her, pressing his fingers to her wrist, calling for someone to phone an ambulance. Her blood pressure, he would later tell the paramedics, was dangerously elevated. Her ankles were swollen beneath the hem of her gown. Her skin had the grayish pallor of someone whose body was quietly turning against itself. In the ambulance, while a paramedic threaded an IV into her arm and another monitored the fetal heartbeats, 2 rapid, fluttering rhythms that sounded like hummingbird wings on the Doppler, Victoria's phone buzzed in her clutch. Then again. Then a cascade of notifications that made the device vibrate continuously against the satin lining. A paramedic fished it out, glanced at the screen, and hesitated before handing it to her. The expression on his face told her everything before she even looked down. The photographs were everywhere. Page 6 had them first, then Des Moines, then every gossip aggregator with a pulse. Derek Crane, her husband, the CEO of Crane Industries, the man whose grandfather had built half of Midtown Manhattan, stepping out of the Greenwich Hotel in Tribeca at 9:47 that evening. His hand rested on the lower back of Celine Marquez, a 23-year-old socialite influencer whose Instagram following exceeded the population of several small nations. They were laughing. Celine's head was tilted toward his shoulder. His wedding ring caught the flash of the paparazzi's camera, a bright gold accusation. Victoria stared at the photos while the ambulance screamed through Midtown traffic, and she felt something inside her calcify. Not break, harden. She had married Derek Crane 4 years earlier in a ceremony at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine that had been covered by Vogue and attended by 600 guests, including 2 senators and a Supreme Court justice. The Ashford name carried the particular gravity of old American money, the kind that didn't need to announce itself, the kind woven into the endowments of universities and the donor walls of museums. Victoria's great-grandfather had been a railroad magnate. Her grandmother had lunched with Jackie Kennedy. The family fortune had diminished over generations, eroded by poor investments and expensive divorces, but the name still opened doors that new money could only knock on. Derek had understood this with the precision of a man who measured everything in leverage. Crane Industries was powerful but nouveau, 3 generations of aggressive real estate development that had made the family billions but never quite earned them a seat at certain tables. Marrying Victoria gave him that seat. She gave him legitimacy, pedigree, the soft power of a wife who could navigate a benefit dinner at the Met without consulting a seating chart. In return, he gave her stability, or what she mistook for it. He gave her a penthouse on Park Avenue, a household staff, and the particular loneliness of being married to a man who viewed affection as a transaction with diminishing returns. The erosion had been gradual. First came the late nights he stopped explaining, then the phone calls he took in other rooms, then the slow, surgical removal of her access, a financial advisor who stopped returning her calls, a joint account that required his approval for withdrawals over $10,000, a prenuptial agreement she had signed at 28 with the naive trust of a woman who believed marriage meant partnership. When she discovered the pregnancy, Derek's reaction had been a long silence, followed by a question about timing and optics. Not joy. Never joy. At Lenox Hill Hospital, the doctors moved with urgent efficiency. Severe preeclampsia, they told her, with protein levels in her urine that suggested her kidneys were under siege. The twins, a boy and a girl she had learned at 20 weeks, were showing signs of growth restriction. The attending physician, a woman with kind eyes and a voice calibrated for delivering terrible news gently, explained that Victoria needed immediate transfer to a facility with a level 4 NICU and a specialized maternal fetal medicine team. Without it, the risks were not abstract. They were specific, medical, and terrifying. Victoria tried to access her bank accounts from her phone. Every one was frozen or restructured. The joint checking account showed a balance of $11. The savings account required dual authorization. Her personal credit card, the one Derek had assured her was hers alone, had been canceled 3 days earlier. She lay in that sterile room under fluorescent lights and understood with the clarity that only true abandonment provides, that her husband had not merely left her. He had planned her erasure. Derek arrived at the hospital at 1 a.m. He did not ask about her condition. He did not ask about the twins. He walked into her room in the same suit he had worn to the Tribeca Hotel, smelling faintly of perfume that was not hers, and placed a manila envelope on the rolling tray beside her bed. A quiet separation agreement, he called it, clean, fast, and generous by his standards. A lump sum that would cover a modest apartment and a year of expenses in exchange for her silence, her cooperation, and her disappearance from his public narrative. Brand management, he said, as though their marriage were a product line being discontinued. When she told him about the preeclampsia, about the danger to their children, his expression did not change. He told her that her medical situation was her problem, that his lawyers had already restructured the assets to protect the company, and that she should consider the agreement carefully because it was the best offer she would receive. Then he straightened his cuffs and walked out. He did not look back. The door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded, to Victoria, like the turning of a lock. She lay in the dark afterward, her hands on her belly, feeling the twins shift and kick. 2 small lives utterly dependent on the woman who had been systematically stripped of every resource. Her parents were gone. Her father had died of a heart attack when she was 24. Her mother had followed 2 years later, taken by pancreatic cancer that moved through her with merciless speed. There were no siblings, no close relatives, no safety net woven from blood. The friends she had cultivated during her marriage were Derek's friends first, society acquaintances who would scatter like startled birds at the first whiff of scandal. The night nurse, a woman named Claudette, who had worked labor and delivery for 23 years and had developed an instinct for recognizing women in genuine crisis, watched Victoria through the glass partition of the nurse's station. She saw the frozen accounts on the phone screen. She saw the unsigned separation agreement. She saw a pregnant woman alone at 2 a.m. in the hospital room with no emergency contact listed, no next of kin, and a medical condition that was escalating by the hour. Claudette remembered something. 3 months earlier, at a fundraiser for maternal health initiatives, a man had spoken with Victoria briefly. He had given Victoria his card and told her, in front of several witnesses, that if she ever needed anything at all, she should call. Claudette had been volunteering at that event. She remembered the man's name because it had been printed on the building's dedication plaque. She found the card in Victoria's clutch, tucked behind a lipstick and a folded program from tonight's gala. The name embossed in clean, simple font read, Dominic Hale. Below it, a direct phone number. Claudette looked at Victoria through the glass, asleep now, fitfully, her monitors beeping their quiet warnings, and picked up the phone. It rang twice before a voice answered, alert despite the hour, as though its owner were a man accustomed to calls that changed everything. The boy who would become a billionaire once slept in a car that did not belong to him. It was a rusted Buick LeSabre parked behind a condemned laundromat on Michigan Avenue in Detroit. And Dominic Hale was 9 years old. And the windows would not roll up all the way, and it was February. He survived that night by wrapping himself in garbage bags and breathing into his cupped hands until the shaking stopped. 29 years later, sitting in the private study of his Tribeca penthouse at 2 a.m, he could still feel the cold in his knuckles when the world got quiet enough. The phone call from the nurse lasted 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Dominic listened without interrupting, a habit he had cultivated in boardrooms and carried into every other room of his life. The nurse's voice was steady but urgent. She described Victoria's condition, the preeclampsia, the frozen accounts, the husband who had come not with comfort but with a contract. When she finished, there was a pause that lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then Dominic began making calls. Within 20 minutes, his chief of staff had activated the private medical concierge team retained by Hale Ventures. Within 40, a maternal fetal medicine specialist named Dr. Amara Ose, one of the foremost authorities on high-risk pregnancies in the country, whom Dominic had personally recruited to lead the Hale-funded maternal sciences wing at Mount Sinai, was being briefed on Victoria's case. Within the hour, a medical transport team arrived at Lenox Hill with transfer paperwork, and Victoria Ashford Crane was moved to a private suite in a facility that existed, in part, because a boy from Detroit had decided that no mother should ever die for lack of money. That decision had its roots in a story Dominic rarely told. His mother, Janelle Hale, was 19 years old when she went into labor in a community hospital on the east side of Detroit. She had no insurance. She had no partner. The man who fathered Dominic had vanished months earlier into the particular anonymity that irresponsible men cultivate like a skill. Janelle's labor was complicated by a placental abruption that a better-equipped hospital might have detected earlier, might have managed with emergency intervention and a team of specialists standing ready. Instead, she bled. The understaffed emergency room scrambled, but the damage was catastrophic. Dominic was delivered alive. Janelle was not alive to hold him. She was 19 years old, and she died on a gurney under fluorescent lights because the distance between poverty and survival in America could be measured in minutes that no one gave her. Dominic entered the foster care system before his umbilical cord was dry. He passed through 7 homes in 9 years, some indifferent, some cruel, one genuinely kind, a retired teacher named Mrs. Edith Calloway, who kept him for 2 years and taught him to read voraciously before her own health failed and he was moved again. He learned early that the world was not designed to catch falling children. It was designed to step over them. So he decided, with the cold clarity that sometimes visits children who have been forced to grow up in the dark, that he would build something tall enough that no one could step over him again. He earned a scholarship to the University of Michigan through grades that were almost aggressive in their perfection. He double majored in computer science and molecular biology, a combination his advisor called unusual and his classmates called impossible. He did not attend parties. He did not join fraternities. He worked 3 jobs simultaneously: tutoring, coding freelance, and night shifts at a warehouse, and graduated summa cum laude with 0 debt and a business plan written on legal pads in handwriting so precise it looked typeset. Hale Ventures began as a 1-room operation in Ann Arbor, building software tools for biotech startups that could not afford enterprise solutions. Within 3 years, it had expanded into direct biotech investment. Within 7, it was a conglomerate. Dominic had a gift for identifying technologies that were 5 years ahead of the market and positioning himself at the intersection of innovation and capital with the patience of a man who understood that real power was not loud, it was structural. By 35, he was worth $4 billion. By 38, closer to 9. Forbes called him the quiet titan. The Wall Street Journal called him the most dangerous man in American business, not because he was ruthless, but because he was disciplined. And discipline, in a world of impulsive men, was the most lethal advantage of all. His collision with Crane Industries had been inevitable. Derek Crane operated in real estate, but Crane Industries had diversified aggressively into biotech holdings and health tech platforms over the previous decade, chasing margins in sectors it did not understand. Dominic had outmaneuvered Crane on 3 major acquisitions in 2 years, not through hostility, but through superior preparation and deeper relationships with the founders Derek tried to court with flashy dinners and empty promises. Derek Crane took this personally, as men who inherit power often take it personally when self-made men prove more capable. He had called Dominic a vulture at an industry conference. Dominic had not responded publicly. He never did. He simply closed another deal the following week and let the silence speak. He visited Victoria on the 2nd day of her stay at Mount Sinai. He came alone, without assistance or security, wearing a simple navy sweater and carrying nothing. He knocked before entering. He stood at a respectful distance from her bed. He introduced himself as though she might not remember him, though they had spoken at the maternal health fundraiser 3 months prior, and he had noticed then, with the observational precision that made him formidable in negotiations, that her smile did not reach her eyes, and that her husband's hand on her arm looked less like affection and more like a leash. Victoria regarded him with the wariness of a woman who had recently learned that generosity from powerful men always carried invoices. She asked him directly what he wanted, what the angle was, whether this was about Derek, about the business rivalry, about some strategic calculus she was too exhausted to decode. Her voice was hoarse but firm, and Dominic noted that even depleted, even frightened, she possessed a spine that her husband had apparently failed to notice, or had noticed and tried to break. He told her the truth plainly. He said that no one should die because someone else decided they were not worth saving. He said it without drama, without softness calculated to manipulate, without the performative empathy that powerful people deployed like currency. He said it like a man stating a fact about gravity. Then he explained what he had arranged, the medical team, the specialists, the private suite, and told her that a trust had been established to cover her medical expenses and basic living costs through the remainder of her pregnancy and 6 months beyond. He asked nothing in return. He presented no documents for her to sign. He told her that if she wanted him to leave and never return, he would do so immediately, and the trust would remain intact regardless. Victoria studied him for a long time. Then she nodded once, and something in her expression shifted almost imperceptibly. Not trust, not yet, but the faint acknowledgement that perhaps the world contained at least one door that was not a trap. 3 days later, Derek Crane discovered Dominic's involvement through a hospital billing inquiry that his lawyers had flagged during their asset restructuring. His reaction was volcanic. He interpreted the gesture not as compassion, but as conquest, not as decency, but as a chess move designed to humiliate him publicly. He convened his publicist, his crisis communications team, and his personal attorney in the Crane Industries boardroom at 8 a.m. and orchestrated a press conference that aired on every major network by noon. Standing behind a mahogany podium with the Crane Industries logo gleaming in brushed steel behind him, Derek presented himself as the devoted husband navigating a painful private matter. His voice cracked at precisely calibrated moments. He referenced Victoria's emotional instability, her erratic behavior during pregnancy, her unfortunate susceptibility to manipulation by outside parties with ulterior motives. He never named Dominic directly. He did not need to. The implication was surgical, designed to reframe the narrative from abandonment to concern, from cruelty to victimhood. He wore his wedding ring prominently. He dabbed at his eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. Dominic watched the broadcast from his office, standing before the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the Hudson River. His expression did not change. His chief of staff asked if he wanted to issue a response. Dominic said no. He had learned long ago that responding to men like Derek Crane was like arguing with weather. It accomplished nothing and revealed too much. Instead, he turned off the television, sat down at his desk, and reviewed the latest reports from Dr. Osei on Victoria's condition. The twins were stable. Victoria's blood pressure was responding to treatment. That was what mattered. The rest was noise. The contrast between the two men existed not merely in their words or their wealth, but in the architecture of their characters. Derek Crane had been born into power and spent his life performing it. The tailored suits, the commanding voice, the aggressive handshake, the relentless need to be perceived as dominant in every room he entered. His masculinity was a production, staged and lit and directed for an audience he could never stop imagining. Dominic Hale had built power from nothing and spent his life deploying it quietly, funding hospitals, establishing scholarship programs, acquiring companies not to display dominance, but to build systems that functioned. His strength was not performed. It was structural, load-bearing, invisible until you tried to move it and found that it would not move. That night, Dominic sat alone in his penthouse and opened a small wooden box he kept in his bedside drawer. Inside was a single photograph, creased and faded, a Polaroid of a young woman with dark eyes and a shy smile, taken in a hospital room, holding her belly with both hands. Someone had written on the white border in ballpoint pen, "Janelle, 8 months." It was the only photograph of his mother that existed. He held it for a long time, then placed it back in the box, closed the lid, and went to sleep with the discipline of a man who had taught himself, over decades, to carry grief without letting it drive. The first sign that something was catastrophically wrong came not as pain, but as absence. Victoria woke at 3 a.m. in her private suite at Mount Sinai and realized she could not feel the twins moving. For 7 weeks, she had lived with their constant restless choreography. Elias pressing his feet against her ribs, Nora turning slow somersaults that made her belly ripple like water disturbed by stones. Now there was stillness, a terrible, hollow stillness that filled her body like silence fills an empty cathedral. She pressed the call button with a hand that was already trembling. The night nurse arrived in 40 seconds, took one look at Victoria's face, the grayish pallor, the sheen of sweat across her forehead, the way her right hand gripped the bed rail as though the room were tilting, and called Dr. Osei without asking a single question. Within 3 minutes, the suite was flooded with light and personnel. Within 5, the monitors told a story that made Dr. Osei's jaw tighten almost imperceptibly, a micro-expression that Victoria caught and understood with the animal instinct of a mother whose body already knew what the machines were confirming. Her platelet count had plummeted. Her liver enzymes were spiking in patterns that resembled a seismograph recording an earthquake. The acronym the medical team used was HELLP, hemolysis, elevated liver enzymes, low platelet count, a syndrome that sounded clinical and bureaucratic, but meant, in plain language, that Victoria's body was destroying itself. Her blood was breaking apart at the cellular level. Her liver was swelling against its own capsule. The twins, at 31 weeks of gestation, were showing decelerations on the fetal heart monitor that came in waves, each dip a small emergency, each recovery slightly less convincing than the last. Dr. Osei made the call at 3:22 in the morning. Emergency cesarean section, no delay. She spoke to Victoria with the direct compassion of a physician who understood that in moments like these, honesty was the only kindness that mattered. She explained that the twins would be premature, that they would need immediate NICU care, that the surgery carried significant risks given Victoria's deteriorating blood work. She did not sugarcoat. She did not hedge. She told Victoria that they were going to fight for all 3 of them, and that she needed Victoria to fight too. Victoria nodded. Her hands were on her belly, pressing gently, as though she could transmit courage through skin and muscle and amniotic fluid to the 2 small beings who had become the entire architecture of her purpose. She was not the woman who had collapsed at the Waldorf 7 weeks ago. That woman had been hollowed out by betrayal, stripped of resources, abandoned in a sterile room by a man who measured her value in brand equity. The woman lying in this bed now was something different, something forged. She had spent 7 weeks being cared for by people who expected nothing from her, watching her body stabilize under the attention of physicians who treated her not as a liability, but as a life worth preserving. She had spent 7 weeks having quiet conversations with a man who brought her books instead of contracts and asked about her well-being instead of her compliance. That man was currently 1,100 miles away. Dominic was seated at the head of a glass conference table on the 42nd floor of Hale Ventures' Chicago office when his phone vibrated against his thigh. The board meeting had been running for 3 hours, a quarterly review of the biotech portfolio that required his direct attention because 2 acquisitions were approaching critical regulatory milestones. 14 people sat around the table, each representing divisions worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Dominic had been listening to a presentation on clinical trial data with a focused intensity that his colleagues had long since stopped finding intimidating and simply accepted as the baseline frequency of his attention. He glanced at his phone beneath the table. The message was from Dr. Osei's office. 4 words that rearranged every priority in his life with the efficiency of a detonation. Emergency delivery. Come now. He stood. The room fell silent. He told his chief operating officer to continue the meeting, offered no explanation, and walked out. In the elevator descending 42 floors, he called his aviation coordinator and ordered his jet prepared for immediate departure from Midway to Teterboro. The flight time would be approximately 2 hours. He calculated this against what he knew of emergency cesarean procedures, the preparation, the surgery itself, the recovery, and understood with sickening clarity that he would not arrive in time for any of it. In the car, racing toward Midway, he made one more call. His assistant had already contacted Derek Crane's office as a matter of protocol because, regardless of the separation, regardless of the abandonment, the man was legally still Victoria's husband and the biological father of the twins being born in crisis. Derek's executive assistant relayed the message. Derek's response, delivered through that same assistant with the practiced neutrality of someone accustomed to sanitizing her employer's cruelty, was 2 words. Handle it. Dominic set the phone down on the leather seat beside him and stared out the window at the Chicago skyline sliding past in a blur of glass and steel. His hands were steady. They were always steady, but something behind his sternum was pulling tight, a tension he recognized from childhood, the feeling of being unable to reach someone who needed reaching, the helplessness of distance, the particular agony of caring about an outcome you cannot control. Back at Mount Sinai, the operating room was a theater of controlled urgency. Victoria lay on the surgical table beneath lights so bright they erased shadows entirely. Her lower body shielded by a sterile drape, her arms extended on padded boards, an anesthesiologist monitoring her vitals from a station near her head. The spinal block had taken effect, numbing her from the chest down, but her mind was ferociously present. She could hear everything: the clipped exchanges between Dr. Osei and the surgical team, the rhythmic beeping of monitors, the metallic clink of instruments being passed hand to hand. Doctor. Osei made the incision at 3:41. The first complication arrived almost immediately. Victoria's uterine wall, weakened by the HELP syndrome's assault on her vascular system, began bleeding more heavily than anticipated. The surgical field flooded crimson. A nurse called out blood loss figures in a voice trained to remain calm while reporting catastrophe. Dr. Osei worked with hands that moved like a pianist's, precise, deliberate, unhesitating, while calling for additional units of packed red blood cells and fresh, frozen plasma. The first twin emerged at 3:47. Elias. He was impossibly small, his skin translucent and reddish purple, his limbs curled tight against his body, as though he were still trying to hold the shape of the womb. He did not cry immediately. The neonatal team received him onto a warming table and began stimulation, rubbing his back, suctioning his airway, and for 11 seconds, that lasted longer than any 11 seconds should, the operating room held its collective breath. Then a sound emerged from that tiny body, thin and reedy and furious, a wail that was less a cry than a declaration. Victoria heard it through the haze of monitors and medical urgency, and something inside her broke open. Nora came 90 seconds later, even smaller than her brother, and she did cry immediately. A sharp, startled sound, as though she had been interrupted in the middle of something important and wanted everyone to know she objected. The neonatal team moved with choreographed efficiency. 2 separate stations now active, 2 sets of tiny lungs being evaluated, 2 fragile bodies being stabilized for transport to the NICU. But Victoria was hemorrhaging. The blood loss had exceeded what the surgical team had prepared for. Dr. Osei's voice shifted register, still controlled, still authoritative, but carrying an undertone that the experienced nurses recognized as genuine alarm. Additional surgical teams were called. Transfusion protocols escalated. Victoria's blood pressure dropped precipitously, and the anesthesiologist began administering vasopressors to keep her conscious, to keep her heart pumping blood that her body was losing faster than it could be replaced. Victoria felt herself dimming, not fading, dimming, like a lamp being turned down by an unseen hand. The sounds of the operating room grew distant, muffled, as though she were sinking beneath water. She was aware, distantly, of hands working inside her body, of urgent voices exchanging information she could no longer parse. A nurse stood beside her head, gripping her hand, and Victoria squeezed back with whatever strength remained in her fingers. She whispered 2 names into the bright, sterile air. Elias, Nora. She said them like prayers. She said them like anchors thrown into a sea that was trying to pull her under. At 37,000 feet above Pennsylvania, Dominic sat motionless in the cabin of his Gulfstream. He had received 2 updates via text from the hospital liaison. The first reported that the twins had been delivered and were being transferred to the NICU. The second reported that Victoria was experiencing surgical complications and that the team was working to stabilize her. The word stabilize, he knew, was medical language for the space between living and dying. He pressed his forehead against the cold window of the aircraft and closed his eyes. He thought about his mother. He thought about a 19-year-old girl bleeding on a gurney in Detroit while an understaffed emergency room scrambled too late. He thought about the particular cruelty of a universe that would let him build hospitals and fund research and write checks with enough zeros to make politicians return his calls, and still leave him powerless in a metal tube hurtling through the dark sky, while a woman he had come to care about more than strategy or rivalry or self-preservation fought for her life on an operating table he could not reach. He arrived at Mount Sinai at 6:14 in the morning. He had not slept. He had not eaten. He walked through the hospital corridors with the controlled urgency of a man who understood that running would help nothing, but could not bring himself to walk slowly. A nurse directed him to the recovery wing. He found Victoria in a private room connected to monitors and IV lines, her face the color of parchment, her breathing shallow but steady. She was alive. The words settled into him like a stone dropping into deep water. He sat in the chair beside her bed. He did not take her hand. He did not touch her. He simply sat, present, occupying the space that her husband had vacated and that the universe had left conspicuously empty. The monitors beeped their quiet metronome. Morning light crept through the blinds in thin gold lines. She woke slowly, surfacing through layers of sedation like a diver ascending from depth. Her eyes found him before they found anything else in the room. He watched recognition move across her face, followed by the immediate, sharp terror of a mother who did not yet know the answer to the only question that mattered. He told her before she could ask. He told her the twins were in the NICU, that they were small but breathing, that Elias weighed 3 pounds and 2 ounces, and Nora weighed 2 pounds and 14 ounces, and that the neonatal team had described them both in the particular language of physicians who have learned to deliver hope carefully, as fighters. Victoria's face crumpled. Not the controlled composure she had maintained through Derek's betrayal, through the frozen accounts, through the press conference that painted her as unstable. Not the hardened calcification she had built around herself like armor in the weeks since her world collapsed. This was something deeper, something tectonic, the release of terror that had been held so tightly and for so long that its departure felt like a physical rupture. She cried. She cried with her whole body, shaking beneath the thin hospital blanket, her hands covering her face, sounds emerging from her that were raw and unbeautiful and profoundly human. Dominic sat beside her and did not look away. He did not offer platitudes. He did not try to fix or minimize or redirect. He simply remained steady and present, a man who had learned in childhood that sometimes the most powerful thing you could offer another person was the willingness to witness their pain without flinching. And in that room, in the thin morning light, something shifted between them that neither would name for months. It was not romance. It was not strategy. It was the quiet, irreversible recognition that his presence in her life had crossed a boundary from generosity into something deeply, dangerously personal. He had not planned this. She had not invited it, but it was there now, as undeniable as the 2 small heartbeats flickering in the NICU 3 floors above them, fragile and fierce and impossible to ignore. The front page of the New York Post arrived like a grenade through the window of normalcy that Victoria had spent 6 weeks carefully constructing. The headline screamed in 72-point font above a split photograph, one side showing Dominic entering her apartment building with a bag of groceries, the other showing Derek stumbling out of a meat-packing district club at 2 a.m. with his shirt untucked and his eyes glazed. The caption read, "Billionaire rival steals Crane's family." Beneath it, in smaller type, that somehow cut deeper. Sources say tech titan Dominic Hale has been playing house with estranged wife of real estate mogul Derek Crane and her newborn twins. Victoria set the newspaper face down on the kitchen counter of the penthouse apartment on Central Park West and listened to the sound of Nora fussing in the bassinet by the window. Elias was asleep in the matching bassinet beside his sister, his tiny fist curled against his cheek, his breathing the steady rhythm of a child who had spent 5 weeks in ANICU, learning how to exist outside the womb, and had apparently decided he was quite good at it. Nora, smaller and more temperamental, was still negotiating her terms with the outside world. She fussed the way she did everything, with intensity and specificity, her cries sharp and brief, less complaints than demands for immediate attention. Victoria lifted her daughter and settled into the gliding chair that had appeared in the apartment one morning without explanation, along with a handwritten note from Dominic's assistant that read simply, "Doctor." Osei recommended this model for post-surgical recovery. The apartment itself had been the subject of their first genuine argument. Dominic had arranged it before Victoria was discharged from the hospital. A 3-bedroom penthouse with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the park, a nursery already furnished with medical-grade air purifiers and blackout curtains, a kitchen stocked by a nutritionist who specialized in postpartum recovery. Victoria had taken one look at it and told him she could not accept it. He had told her it was available and she was welcome to it. She had insisted on paying rent. He had countered with $1 per month, delivered with the faintest suggestion of a smile that she was beginning to recognize as his version of humor. Dry, understated, almost invisible, unless you knew where to look. She had written him a check for $1. He had framed it. The media siege had begun 10 days after the twins' discharge, when a photographer with a telephoto lens captured Dominic leaving the building at 11 at night. The image was ambiguous. He could have been visiting anyone in a building that housed 47 units. But ambiguity was not a currency the tabloids traded in. Within 24 hours, the narrative had crystallized into 2 competing stories that split along predictable lines. The gossip outlets favored the seduction angle, a calculating billionaire rival swooping in to claim his enemy's wife and children as trophies of corporate warfare. The more sympathetic publications ran the rescue narrative, a compassionate CEO stepping in where a negligent husband had failed. Neither story was accurate. Both were profitable. The truth, as usual, was quieter and more complicated than any headline could contain. The financial markets, however, responded not to narratives, but to patterns, and the pattern emerging around Derek Crane was deeply unflattering. Shareholders in Crane Industries had watched their CEO hold a press conference, painting himself as a devoted husband, only to see subsequent reporting reveal the frozen accounts, the separation agreement delivered to a hospital bed, the refusal to attend his own children's emergency birth. The stock dipped 3% on the first wave of coverage. It dropped another 4% when an anonymous source within Crane Industries, later identified as a disgruntled vice president whom Derek had passed over for promotion, leaked details of the asset restructuring to the Financial Times. The board of directors, a collection of legacy appointees and institutional investors who had tolerated Derek's ego because it came packaged with quarterly returns, began holding meetings without him. One of those meetings included a quiet, exploratory conversation with representatives from Hale Ventures about the potential acquisition of Crane Industries' biotech division, its most profitable arm, worth an estimated $2.3 billion. Dominic listened to the proposal, asked precise questions about valuation methodology and regulatory exposure, and then tabled the discussion indefinitely. His chief operating officer questioned this privately. The acquisition made strategic sense. The price would only increase if Crane's stock recovered. Dominic explained in the measured tone he used when a decision was final that he would not acquire any part of Derek Crane's company while he was personally involved with Derek Crane's estranged wife. The optics were irrelevant. The ethics were not. He would not give anyone, not the media, not the courts, not Victoria herself, reason to believe that his actions toward her had been a long play for corporate advantage. His COO pointed out that this was leaving money on the table. Dominic replied that some tables were not worth eating from. The legal assault came 3 weeks after the tabloid coverage began. Derek's attorneys, a white shoe firm that billed at $1,400 per hour and had represented 3 generations of Cranes, filed a motion challenging the paternity of Elias and Nora. The claim was grotesque in its cynicism. The twins had been conceived during a period when Victoria and Derek were unambiguously cohabiting. The pregnancy had been confirmed by Derek's own physician. He had been present at the 20-week anatomy scan. But the paternity challenge was never intended to succeed on its merits. It was designed to delay, to harass, to create a legal fog that would obscure the real target, the Crane Family Trust. The trust had been established in 1968 by Derek's grandfather, Harold Crane, a man who built shopping malls across the Sun Belt and possessed the foresight to lock his fortune into a generational structure that his descendants could draw from, but never fully control. The trust's governing documents specify that all biological grandchildren and great-grandchildren of Harold Crane were entitled to equal shares upon reaching the age of 21, with interim distributions for education, health care, and housing administered by a trustee. Elias and Nora, as Derek's biological children, were entitled to shares currently valued at approximately $110 million each. The paternity challenge, if it succeeded, or even if it merely persisted long enough, could freeze those distributions indefinitely. Victoria understood this with the clarity of a woman who had spent 4 years married to a man who weaponized legal structures the way other men weaponized fists. She understood that the challenge was not about doubt, it was about control. Derek did not question whether the twins were his. He questioned it because questioning it was cheaper than acknowledging them. She sat in the gliding chair with Nora asleep against her chest and made a decision that felt less like anger and more like architecture, the deliberate construction of a wall between her children and the man who had abandoned them. She called the attorney Dominic had recommended, a woman named Constance Adeyemi, whose reputation in family law was so formidable that opposing counsel had been known to settle cases simply upon learning she had been retained. Victoria did not call Constance for revenge. She called her for fortification. She wanted security for Elias and Nora, their inheritance, their custody, their legal right to exist without their father's interference. Nothing more, nothing less. Constance arrived at the apartment the following afternoon, reviewed the trust documents, the paternity filing, and the separation agreement Derek had attempted to force Victoria to sign in the hospital, and pronounced the entire legal strategy, in her precise and devastating way, a house of cards built by men who confused aggression with competence, She filed a counter motion demanding expedited DNA testing, which she knew would confirm paternity and collapse Derek's challenge entirely. She simultaneously filed for full custody and a formal claim on the twins' trust shares. The legal machinery began to turn. The relationship between Victoria and Dominic deepened, not through grand gestures, but through the accumulative intimacy of shared exhaustion. Twins do not respect the boundaries between night and day. They operate on a schedule dictated by hunger and discomfort, and the mysterious internal rhythms of bodies still learning how to regulate themselves. Victoria was awake at 2 a.m, at 4, at 5:30, moving between bassinets with the mechanical efficiency of a woman running on reserves she did not know she possessed. Dominic began appearing in the evenings. Not every evening. He was careful about frequency, about boundaries, about the difference between support and intrusion. But 2 or 3 times a week, he would arrive after his workday ended, carrying takeout from a different restaurant each time, and he would sit on the floor of the nursery while Victoria fed one twin and he held the other. They talked during these hours in the low, unhurried voices that the late night demands. He told her about growing up in foster care, about Mrs. Calloway and the Buick LeSabre and the particular cold of Detroit in February. She told him about her parents, about her mother's laugh and her father's quiet steadiness, and the grief that had never fully healed because she had married Derek before it had the chance to. He never made a move. He never touched her in a way that suggested expectation. He held Elias with the careful, slightly terrified tenderness of a man who had never held an infant before and was acutely aware of the fragility in his arms. He burped Nora with a technique he had researched online and executed with the methodical precision he brought to everything. Victoria watched him and felt something she had not felt in years. Not gratitude, which she had already moved beyond, but respect. The deep, structural respect that comes from watching someone behave consistently well when no one is keeping score. Meanwhile, 12 blocks south and 43 floors up, Derek Crane was discovering that the architecture of his life had been load-bearing walls he had mistaken for decoration. Celine Marquez left him on a Tuesday via a text message that contained exactly 11 words and no punctuation. She had tolerated the scandal when it was glamorous. The mistress of a powerful CEO carried a certain cachet in certain circles. But a CEO whose stock was cratering, whose board was mutinous, whose public image had curdled from commanding to contemptible, that was a different calculation entirely. She was photographed the following weekend in Mykonos with a 26-year-old cryptocurrency founder, and Derek's name did not appear in the caption. He began drinking with the methodical dedication he had once applied to deal-making: scotch at lunch, wine at dinner, bourbon alone in the Park Avenue penthouse that still contained traces of Victoria, a forgotten scarf in the hall closet, a book on the nightstand she had been reading before the gala, a nursery that had been half prepared and never finished. He stood in that nursery one night, glass in hand, staring at the crib he had never assembled, and felt something he could not immediately identify because he had so little experience with it. It was not guilt, not exactly. It was the dawning, nauseating recognition that he had discarded something irreplaceable and that the world had noticed and was adjusting its valuation of him accordingly. His reflection stared back at him from the dark nursery window. A man who had inherited an empire and was watching it erode. not because of a rival strategy, but because of his own spectacular failure to understand that power without decency was a currency that eventually collapsed under its own weight. 12 blocks north, Victoria placed Elias and Nora in their bassinets, turned off the nursery light, and stood for a moment in the doorway, listening to them breathe. 2 small, fierce lives, hers to protect. She closed the door softly and walked to the kitchen, where the newspaper still lay face down on the counter. She picked it up, looked at the headline one more time, and dropped it into the recycling bin. Then she poured herself a glass of water, sat at the counter in the quiet apartment, and began reviewing the legal documents Constance had sent, preparing for the fight ahead with the steady, clear-eyed focus of a woman who had finally stopped breaking and started building. The courtroom smelled of old wood and paper and the particular staleness of air that has been recycled through decades of human conflict. On the morning of January 14th, 2027, Victoria Ashford Crane sat at a mahogany table beside Constance Adeyemi and listened to a judge read a ruling that dismantled the last remaining structure of her marriage with the clinical precision of a demolition crew bringing down a condemned building. Full custody of Elias and Nora Crane awarded to the mother. The paternity challenge dismissed with prejudice after DNA results confirmed what everyone already knew. The twins' claim to the Crane family trust upheld in its entirety. $220 million held in escrow until their 21st birthdays, with interim distributions for education, healthcare, and housing administered by an independent trustee selected by the court. Derek's attorney sat in rigid silence. Derek himself was not present. He had stopped attending hearings 2 months earlier, sending proxies in his place, as though his absence from the courtroom could somehow mirror and retroactively justify his absence from everything else. Constance closed her leather portfolio with a soft snap and placed one hand briefly on Victoria's forearm. Victoria nodded. She did not smile. She did not cry. She gathered her documents, thanked the judge with quiet formality, and walked out of the courtroom into a corridor flooded with winter light from tall, arched windows. Photographers waited outside the building, their cameras clicking in rapid bursts that sounded like mechanical insects. Victoria walked past them without turning her head, climbed into the waiting car, and asked the driver to take her home. The twins would be waking from their afternoon nap soon. Nora would be hungry. Elias would want to be held. The ruling was the final punctuation mark on a legal battle that had consumed 9 months and generated enough billable hours to fund a small university. But the ruling was also, Victoria understood, merely the official acknowledgement of a reality that had been established long before any judge weighed in. She had become, through the alchemy of crisis and determination, a woman whose identity was no longer defined by the man she had married or the man who had helped her survive. She was defined by what she had built in the wreckage: a stable home, a legal fortress around her children, and a sense of self so thoroughly reconstructed that it bore almost no resemblance to the woman who had collapsed on the ballroom floor of the Waldorf Astoria 18 months ago. Derek arrived at her apartment on a Thursday evening in late January, 3 weeks after the ruling. He came without calling. He came without his lawyers. He came alone, which was perhaps the most disorienting thing about his appearance. because Derek Crane had never, in his adult life, arrived anywhere without an entourage designed to amplify his presence and insulate him from consequence. The doorman called up. Victoria considered refusing him entry. She stood in the kitchen with the phone pressed to her ear and weighed the options with the deliberate calculus she now applied to every decision involving her children's father. She told the doorman to send him up, not because she owed Derek anything, because she owed herself the completion of a conversation that had been deferred since the night he placed a manila envelope on her hospital tray and walked out without looking back. He looked diminished. That was the first thing she noticed. Not physically smaller, though the weight loss was evident. His suit hung loosely at the shoulders. His collar gapped at the neck. His face carried the hollowed quality of a man who had been subsisting on alcohol and adrenaline and the diminishing fumes of his own self-regard. But the diminishment was deeper than physical. It was structural. The architecture of his confidence, which had once filled every room he entered like an expanding gas, had collapsed inward. His eyes moved around the apartment, the toys on the floor, the bassinets visible through the nursery doorway, the evidence of a life being built without him, and something in his expression fractured. He told her he wanted to see his children. He used that word, his, with an emphasis that revealed how completely he still understood fatherhood as ownership rather than obligation. His children, his heirs, his bloodline. The board had ousted him 2 weeks earlier. The shareholder revolt had been building for months, fueled not by any external sabotage, but by the accumulated weight of his own mismanagement. Deals made recklessly, partnerships squandered through arrogance, a biotech division hemorrhaging talent because Derek treated scientists like servants and wondered why they left. Dominic had deliberately stayed out of the corporate fight. He had refused the acquisition. He had declined to vote the proxy shares Hale Ventures held in Crane-adjacent funds. He had kept his distance with the disciplined restraint of a man who understood that clean motives required clean hands. Victoria stood across the kitchen island from Derek and felt, for the first time in their entire relationship, absolutely nothing that resembled fear. She told him that he had made his choice. She said it without venom, without the trembling rage she might have summoned a year ago, without the desperate pleading she might have offered 2 years ago, when she still believed that the right words could unlock the version of him she had married. She spoke with the devastating calm of a woman who had passed through the fire and emerged not hardened, but clarified. She told him that fatherhood was not a genetic fact. It was a daily practice. It was earned through presence, through sacrifice, through the willingness to show up at 3 a.m. when a child was crying, and to keep showing up every morning after that. He had been given that opportunity. He had declined it. He had declined it when he froze her accounts. He had declined it when he delivered a separation agreement to her hospital bed. He had declined it when his children were born in an emergency, and he told his assistant to handle it. She told him that the door was not permanently closed, that if he sought treatment, if he demonstrated sustained change, if he pursued a relationship with Elias and Nora through the proper legal channels with the genuine intention of being present in their lives, she would not stand in his way. But she would not hand her children to a man who had proven, repeatedly and without ambiguity, that he viewed them as assets to be managed rather than people to be loved. Derek stood in her kitchen and opened his mouth and closed it. He looked toward the nursery where his children slept. He looked back at Victoria. Then he left. The door closed behind him with the same soft click she remembered from the hospital. But this time, the sound did not feel like a lock turning. It felt like a period at the end of a sentence she had finally finished writing. The invitation arrived in February, embossed on cream cardstock with gold lettering. The Waldorf Astoria Winter Gala, the same event where Victoria's nightmare had begun. She held the invitation for a long time, turning it over in her hands, feeling the weight of the cardstock and the heavier weight of memory. Then she called Dominic and told him she was going. She asked if he would accompany her. The pause on his end lasted exactly 2 seconds, long enough to register surprise, brief enough to confirm that his answer had never been in doubt. She wore red, not the safe, muted navy of the woman who had attended this gala a year ago, hoping to disappear into the background of her husband's performance. A crimson gown that fit her body as it was now, changed by pregnancy, by surgery, by the physical reality of having carried 2 lives inside her and survived their arrival. She wore it without apology. Dominic met her in the lobby in a black tuxedo that he wore with the understated ease of a man who had learned to inhabit formal clothing without letting it inhabit him. The ballroom was identical. The chandeliers, the string quartet, the linen-draped tables with their crystal stemware catching the light in prismatic bursts. Victoria walked through the room and felt the gazes tracking her, curious, admiring, calculating, and let them slide off her like water. She was not performing. She was not proving anything. She was simply present in a room that had once witnessed her lowest moment, standing upright and unbroken beside a man who had never once asked her to be anything other than exactly who she was. Dominic asked her to dance during the second set. The quartet was playing something slow and aching, a melody that moved through the room like smoke. He extended his hand with a formal courtesy that was so deeply embedded in his character, it had ceased to be performance and become simply the way he moved through the world. Victoria took his hand. They stepped onto the floor. He held her at a respectful distance, one hand at her waist, the other holding hers with a gentleness that belied the strength she knew those hands possessed. Hands that had built an empire from nothing, that had held her premature son with terrified tenderness, that had never once reached for her without invitation. They moved together in the slow, careful way of 2 people navigating not just a dance floor, but the accumulated weight of everything that had brought them to this moment. He told her, quietly enough that only she could hear, that he had fallen in love with her. He said it without preamble, without the strategic framing he applied to every other consequential statement in his life. He said it the way he had once told her that no one should die because someone else decided they were not worth saving, like a man stating a fact about gravity. Then he told her that if she needed him to walk away, he would. That the trust funds, the apartment, the medical support, the legal referrals, all of it would remain intact regardless. That his feelings were his responsibility, not her obligation. Victoria looked up at him. She studied his face, the strong jaw, the serious eyes, the faint lines around his mouth that deepened when he was restraining emotion. And she made a choice. Not out of gratitude, not out of dependency, not out of the desperate need for rescue that had characterized her marriage to Derek. She chose him because he had shown her, through 18 months of consistent, unglamorous, daily action, what real partnership looked like. She told him she did not need saving anymore. She told him she chose him. 2 years later, on a September afternoon in 2029, the lake house upstate was overrun with balloons. Elias and Nora turned 3 with the exuberant chaos that only toddler birthday parties can produce. Cake smeared across faces, wrapping paper shredded into confetti, a golden retriever named Captain stealing hot dogs from unattended plates. The guest list was small and deliberate. Dr. Osei came with her family. Constance Adeyemi brought her grandchildren. Claudette, the night nurse from Lenox Hill, who had made the phone call that changed everything, sat in an Adirondack chair by the water and watched the children play with the quiet satisfaction of a woman who understood exactly what her 4-minute phone call had set in motion. Victoria ran the Ashford Foundation now, a maternal health nonprofit funded by Hale Ventures that operated in 12 states and had, in its first year alone, provided prenatal care to over 4,000 women who could not otherwise afford it. She had built it with the same steely focus she had brought to the custody battle, not as charity, but as architecture, a system designed to catch the women the world was designed to step over. A birthday card had arrived that morning, postmarked from a sober living facility in Connecticut. The handwriting on the envelope was Derek's. She recognized the sharp, angular letters that had once signed contracts worth hundreds of millions of dollars. She placed it on the kitchen counter, unopened. Perhaps she would open it someday. Perhaps she would not. The decision belonged to her, and she was in no hurry to make it. Late in the afternoon, when the September light turned golden and the lake surface went still as glass, Victoria stood on the back porch and watched Dominic cross the lawn with both twins on his shoulders. Elias rode the left side, gripping Dominic's hair with the fearless entitlement of a child who had never known a world where this man was not present. Nora rode the right, pointing imperiously toward the water and issuing commands in the garbled, authoritative language of a 3-year-old who had inherited her mother's spine. They called him Papa D. They had invented the name themselves, as children do, with the instinctive precision of small people who understand that love is not defined by biology, but by who shows up. Dominic was laughing. It was a sound Victoria had learned to recognize slowly, over months and years, because he rationed it, not from coldness, but from a lifetime of conserving joy, of treating happiness as a resource too precious to spend carelessly. But here, on this lawn, with these children on his shoulders and this woman watching from the porch, he spent it freely. He laughed, and the twins laughed, and the dog barked, and the late afternoon light caught all of them in amber. Victoria leaned against the porch railing and watched them, and she thought, with the quiet certainty of a woman who had learned to distinguish between performance and truth, between the men who promised and the men who stayed, that this was what it looked like when someone stays.